Career politician Dick Durbin voted yes for the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act in 1994. This bill destroyed the lives of many Americans and their families. The effects of this bill resulted in a 500% increase in people incarcerated over the last 40 years. That's 2.2 million people. This bill instituted in the three strikes and you're out provision that increased the number of people serving life sentences. Don't let Dick Durbin serve another 6 years. Vote for Dr. Willie Wilson. It's about people over politics.
I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I support this ad.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for Senate 2020.
Hello, everybody out there. You are here with Ed Beavers, with Ed Talk. Today, we are going to be we have Courtney Jones. Let me rephrase that. We have the phenomenal Courtney Jones on Ed Talk today. And we're going to be talking about the fight for financial inclusion in real estate. And let me tell you something about Courtney. I love this guy, okay? But I hate his football team. Courtney is from New York. So we want to talk about. Let me introduce Courtney first. He is a smart guy. So I want to talk about him. I don't want to talk about him yet. I want to give him his bio. So Courtney, hello. Let me say hello first.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, sir.
Great. So Courtney Q. Jones is co-owner of Chicago Homes Realty Group, where they specialize in residential and commercial real estate sales, leasing, and property management. In his role as business development officer, he focuses on driving business for the company and holds a real estate license. Courtney has a true love for people, which is what led him to begin a career in real estate. He has a passion to serve and create opportunities for underserved communities. Courtney has 19 years experience in personal and commercial banking, mortgages, investments, and sales training. His exceptional ability to lead and influence others, along with his congenial personality, that's a big word over there, Courtney. His congenial personality has propelled him to the heights of vice president at JP Morgan Chase. Courtney started his career in 1999 in New York, where he was a part of a wealth management program designed to increase client assets. Courtney managed over $400 million in assets and consistently exceeded sales revenue goals. Courtney received recognition for his excellent performance. He was tasked with developing, coaching, and training hundreds of home equity loan officers across 3 states. Courtney developed a world-class team that consistently ranks in the top 10% of the company and received national leadership awards for his performance. Courtney studied finance at St. John University. In addition to his real estate license in Illinois, Courtney also holds the Series 7 and 63 FINRA investment licenses. Courtney is a servant leader. He serves in various capacities in the real estate industry. He currently serves as the president of the Dearborn Realtist Board in Illinois, an African-American trade association, the local chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. During his tenure as president, Courtney piloted the city's most successful community receivership program, where approximately 300 graduates received a certification as Receivership Specialist. This training is currently in his third year. He is also executive director for the Black Coalition for Housing, whose focus is to rehabilitate blighted properties in low-income areas. Courtney was appointed by Rahm Emanuel, immediate past mayor of the city of Chicago, to the steering committee for the City of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development's 5-year housing plan and the advisory committee. When Courtney is not working or serving, he is an avid golfer, a foodie, a self-proclaimed chef, and he enjoys all type of sports. So, welcome, Courtney. First of all, I'm gonna back up a little bit. So, as I said, Courtney is from New York. What part of New York are you from? First of all,
I'm from Harlem.
Harlem, New York. So, Courtney, I'm always going back and forth about what's that? Aren't there two teams in New York? One is like really terrible, and one is like almost terrible. Which one are you for, Courtney?
I'm for the New York Giants.
Okay, so I want to say congratulations to Courtney on the Giants' first win of the season. You know, all of us have to win at least one game. And I want to say congratulations to the Chicago Bears. Go Bears! Say it with me, Courtney. Chicago Bears. I can't hear you.
Won't do it.
Okay. So, Courtney, I love you and I love what you do, and I want to jump right in. So tell me about the Dearborn Realtist Board.
Sure. And again, thank you for having me, Ed. The Dearborn Realtist Board, was founded in 1941. It's one of the oldest Black real estate trade associations in the country, as it relates to housing. And the organization was really founded on the premises of trying to bring some parity, fighting for the disparity in housing and the ability to transact real estate. Because back at that time period, Black real estate professionals could not be, members of the Realtor Trade Association at that time. And those brothers and sisters here in Chicago really just came together to just fight to have the ability to transact business, So from that led all of the civil rights type activism that those brothers and sisters embarked on, which were going up against things like restrictive covenants, which, many of us learned the Chicago history. We learned that during that time period, folks of color were not allowed to own homes outside of a geographic area. So that would be Wentworth, Cottage Grove, Cermak, and 63rd Street. So anything outside of that perimeter, it was against the law for you to own, which set up so many financial and housing abuses, like all of the contract selling that took place during that time period. It was just horrific. So when we look at Chicago in 2020, there's still a big story to be told around concentrated poverty. And those are all the symptoms, if you will, of what came out of those, systemic racist type of policies around housing.
So, Courtney, talk to me about the 2 million Black Ownership Initiative.
Yes, that initiative was spearheaded by one of our past national presidents of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. That president was Ron Cooper, and him and that administration that he was a part of, that he spearheaded, came up with the focus of the initiative of 2 million and 5. It was called 2M and 5. And it's an initiative that's been going on since, around trying to increase the Black home ownership rate by 2 million homeowners over the next 5-year period. And really, so that I'm really specific about it, Ed, this initiative is really like marching orders, right? This is marching orders for the entire real estate community. So our bankers, our real estate attorneys, our escrow agents, our financial service providers, our real estate brokers, housing counselors, surveyors, you name it. Everybody that make up the spokes of the wheel of a real estate transaction was really just being put on notice that in order to start saving Black home ownership, but more importantly, increasing Black wealth through real estate, there has to be a focus, an agenda, and a strategy around getting everyone to see how important it is that we own the land in the neighborhoods that we live.
Thank you. You know what, Courtney? I want to talk about that last Sheba report. Can you tell our listeners actually what the Sheba report is, and what was, if you could kind of summarize what your thoughts were about that last Sheba report.
Sure. Thank you. And for the listeners out there, Ed, that support you and the amazing work that you do, it's really the Sheba report is an acronym for the State of Housing in Black America report. And we, as a National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB, we run this report annually so that with our 2 million and 5, right, initiative, we keep in the forefront of the real estate industry and all of our partners, what do we need to do to break down any potential hurdles and obstacles that are preventing the increase that we're seeking for the Black community. So the report really showed that 55 to 50%, to 65% of the Black community are renters across the country. The report revealed that Black people on average for the same FHA $200,000 mortgage pay more than their white counterpart for the same mortgage. The Sheba report revealed how more Blacks across the country are turned down and rejected for loan products across the board, from conventional to FHA loan products. The report shows how more Black families, regardless of wealth, are being pushed into FHA products, which are, as most of us know, is a more costly mortgage long-term with principal mortgage insurance and others. The Sheba report revealed how through banks putting, additional overlays on banking products, folks of color are paying more for the same types of mortgages. So if Freddie Mac comes out with an amazing, loan product to try to stimulate, home purchasing, but then the banks get a hold of it and they start trying to mitigate risk, i.e. assess a Black borrower with a different type of FICO score and others and start charging them more. In many instances, Black families who would have qualified without the overlay get priced out and can never qualify for a mortgage. And then the next fallback of that would be the Black families that do qualify end up paying more costly. So over the lifetime of a 30-year mortgage, you could end up paying $45,000 more than your white counterpart, which is, we know, simple math. That's, if I gave you $45,000 today, Ed, pretty sure you could find.
So, Courtney, let's talk about the years. And a lot of folks think that Black ownership, home ownership has actually gotten so much better. But let's talk about it. Has it actually really gotten better? I think I lost Courtney for a second. I think we're gonna wait a second and bring him back. But once he comes back, but what that Sheba? Let me see. Hold on, just a moment. We're bringing him back.
I'm here.
Okay, so Courtney, I want to talk about again with people think that we have arrived and we've gotten, everybody has homes now and it's gotten so much better. But talk about the number from 1971, 1975. How is it that much different now than it was back in those years?
Actually, Ed, to your point, that's definitely a misnomer. From the passing of the Fair Housing Act, right, of I want to say it's 1968, to date, we're percentage points equal to where we were. So you might have more Black homeowners now than then just by sheer numbers of population increase. But percentage-wise, we are no better than we were back before the passing of the Fair Housing Act than we are today. And we know, those of us that are advocating in this space, to have things like Vantage Score and FICO 9, these are more modern, assessment models for risk. They would open up the credit box to allow more people to participate. So it's not like it's just a Black thing, right? Because the more Black folks qualify, that would mean more white folks will qualify, more Hispanic folks, more, right? So across the board, it's more favorable for the real estate industry as a whole. And that I often share with our political officials that if you look across the country, cities, counties, and states where Black people are doing better financially, the state, city, and counties are doing better financially in terms of bond rating and things of that nature.
So, Courtney, what can I do as an average person to kind of get active in my community, to kind of get to my alderman, the congressman? What do I say when I get there? What would that conversation be for the average person?
Great question, Ed. Really, from being a part of several brain trusts, where we kind of think out, how do we create a Black agenda, right? So, like right now, we're in this political race where we see Donald Trump and Joe Biden, but there's a lot of skepticism around whoever wins. How does that equate for a victory for Black America? And in my humble opinion, I think until we come up with an agenda that we can hold elected officials accountable to, it's going to be tough for us to ever really have the type of power base that we seek and we deserve. So to answer your question specifically, I think it starts from being engaged. I think we have to find out when our virtual town halls, when our virtual ward night is for where we live, so that we can virtually dial in and listen to updates as the alderman or city official, public official shares what's new, what's coming, what's exciting, what are the pain points. Next, Ed, I humbly feel like we as a Black community don't strategically complain enough about what we see as a problem that impacts our quality of life or our kids' quality of life. And what I mean by strategically, we would want to make sure if there's issues in your neighborhood, you have to call the police. You have to make a report. This is information that you can look up on the city and state websites, but police departments across the country make up their deployment strategy for the next 24 hours based on the complaints that they received for the past 24 hours. So those are things that would be impactful. Then what about communicating to your public officials? We can send emails repeatedly to every public official that services our ward, our district, our county, our state. So if there's things that we see individually that we feel impact our quality of life, like the schools, for example, we need to make our voice heard as an individual. And then lastly, as just my opinion, bolting it out there, I don't feel Black America sues enough. I don't feel that for all the injustice that we see, experience, and have lived through, there's not enough lawsuits to reflect all of the injustice at large that our people have individually and as a community been subjected to.
So I was watching CNN, and I've been watching a couple of different places, and you may not have an opinion, but what's your opinion about the Ice Cube issue? Have you listened to his work and what he's trying to do at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I love it. I feel like Ice Cube is a prime example of we as a people having to get engaged. See, because it's one thing for folks on one side of the aisle or folks on another side of the aisle to complain about what he's doing or say he's not doing enough or say they support what he's doing. What I admire about what he's doing is he's making a stance. He's making a point. He's taking an opportunity to leverage his celebrity notoriety to leverage his voice. So in all honesty, not enough of us are doing what he's doing. And I love what my pastor says often around, if you don't care enough to say enough, then it's probably best to be quiet about those that do. And I just think that's one of the most simplistic but most profound statements to me, that if you're not going to get out there and do what that person's doing, it's probably best to be quiet.
And so I actually listened to him last night, and what I found is great. They try to say he's for Trump or he's for Biden, but he's for black people. So his point is, whoever gets in office, that's who he has to work with. So right now he's approaching both sides because he doesn't know who's going to be president, and that's what he's trying to say to everybody. Like, we have to work with whoever's there. If Biden, you can say, I don't want to work with Trump, but if that person is there, that's who we have to work with. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, Ed, let's just be clear. Those of us that are fighting for the communities we come from, referred to as an activist. I feel everybody who lives in an apartment, you own your own home, you're an activist. You're a rabbi, you're a reverend, right? So you have to take stances that support your household. So there's no way around having to deal with whoever wins. So this whole notion of I can live in a silo and I don't have to deal with this person because I don't like them, I feel they're racist. That's the emotional aspect of what I would love to see us start, trending away from, and really drilling into just the business component and the economic component, the health and wellness component, the social services components that can change the paradigm of our communities. Because I'll leave you and the listeners with this point, Ed. When you look at our Native American brethren, what's being referred to as our indigenous folks here in the United States, right? They are the most underrepresented in Congress and the Senate and public policy. But did they get some form of reparations and restitution?
It sure did.
Do they own their own land? Do they own the reservations? Do they get stipends monthly as long as they participate, at the reservations? Do they own casinos? Do they not have to pay those taxes? Are those casinos funding, their neighborhoods and the different initiatives that matter to them? They are. So simply put, there's a little bit of a shell game around someone looking like us doing the best job. Because when you go to the doctor and you need medical assistance, I don't see too many people wondering what color the person is when you're trying to get help. And I just think we have to, as a general rule, get away from this misconception of, if Ed looks like me, then Ed is for me. I think we should have an expectation that we get the best person executing against all of the policies and agendas that we have that are important, right, to sustain and improve our quality of life, build wealth for our families, keep us physically safe, right, with the social injustice issues. Then we are getting caught up with the rhetoric around who likes us, right? I think that's one of the biggest rabbit holes that we end up going down, that's not really long-term showing us any productive, outcomes in our neighborhood.
So, Courtney, I was actually reading a little paper. It's called Crane Magazine, and they had a big picture of you on it. Let's talk about that. That's receivership, and that's a big deal as well. So I wanted to kind of turn to that. Tell the audience what that is. What exactly receivership is?
Sure, it'll be my pleasure. Let me first acknowledge Managing Deputy Commissioner Anthony Simpkins, who was also a past judge in Cook County. With his expertise and his brain power, he and I got together with a few other support to create a document that actually legitimizes bringing this type of an economic opportunity, a security opportunity to the Black community. Because many of a real estate broker, many of a real estate developer have said to me in the past, man, I was really looking at this property. It's been vacant and abandoned, looked like 7 years, 8 years. And then all of a sudden, I just saw people over there working. How did they even go about getting this property? I was very interested. Well, there's been tons of activists in the city of Chicago who we got to give big shout outs to, who have been really pounding the concrete around trying to bring receivership to the community. I mean, tons of brothers have, really forged forward to even allow this to be an opportunity, that we've been able to jump in with both feet and move, just that much further. But the act of receivership is really just like we've seen with failed banks or babysitting, not to minimize it, but Ed's going out of town and Ed has little Ed. So Ed finds a babysitter who's going to act just as engaged as Ed would for little Ed, right? So that's receivership in its entirety. So now in the Black community, most of our folks are renters. So all of these buildings that are being poorly maintained, in many instances, Black people don't own them. But what we could do is we can actually follow this building in court. We can call 311, which generates the process going on a certain address. The building inspectors have to come out, check the building. They see that the building is in violation for different reasons. It could be safety, it could be hazardous and dangerous. So the parapet wall, it could be structure, it could be steps, porch. It could be many things that now you, through your attorney, can file a motion that you're interested in becoming the receiver of that property, where you will take care of all of the physical building code violations on said property. So you would show the court that you have the financial wherewithal, you have the skill wherewithal, i.e. a plan, to take care of whatever those physical issues are. And then the judge would approve it. You would show the judge your quotes to do the work. The judge would then approve your quotes to do the work before you spend any money. Now you do the work on the property. You come back to court to show the judge that you completed it, and here's what you spent to take care of such items, with the addition of your receivership time, right? So, because the judge could approve a certain dollar amount for your time to manage this property through the completion of getting those building code violations cured. Now you take that approved accounting to the county, file it, and now you have a receivership lien, i.e. a receivership certificate. Now, once you get your certificate, you can actually file a foreclosure claim against that property for the funds that you have, i.e. invested in that property to cure the building code violations. So if we could get more of our Black real estate professionals who know the neighborhoods that they live in to actually start going up, getting those addresses and applying, there are going to be many instances, Ed, where we could actually assist them with forfeiture. And forfeiture is simply because of the negative standing of the building, the court has the jurisdiction to forfeit that property to you so that now you could actually get a judicial deed to go ahead and rehab the place and either live there or rehab the place to sell it for affordable housing. So it's another strategy that will help us as a Black real estate community get more inventory. Because as we've seen right now in Chicago, this is one of the hottest real estate industries. There's barely 2.5 months to 3 months of inventory in the marketplace, which hurts, Black buyers, right? Because now it's a seller's market. So more pricing is going up. You're seeing more people paying over ask for property, which scares me from a Black community standpoint. So people are paying more than, in many instances, what the properties are worth, which i.e. takes us back to, the most recent housing implosion that we witnessed. And we just don't want to see that. So if we can get more properties, i.e. more inventory back into the marketplace, I think that's a much more sustainable, much more affordable way to get our folks to own more land.
So this is a great place to take a break. You are on Intellectual Radio, Ed Talk, where we come on every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Time. Again, we are with Courtney Jones, the president of the Dearborn Realtist Board, Black activist. So now, Courtney, this is a great place to talk about. I've actually read everything about you, your Facebook page, LinkedIn, articles, and there was a statement that kind of stood out to me, and it was a statement that this is a fight. We are fighting for financial inclusion in real estate. And can you kind of talk about that for me?
Sure. And I personally feel like from what I've witnessed, from being, from testifying, on different matters, in General Assembly and different things of that nature, it's really critical that we as a Black community start holding partners and those that benefit off of our communities accountable. We want in, when it comes to these deals, we're not trying to be excluded. Like, look at right now, we have a Better Housing Foundation, which was a predominantly white nonprofit that the SEC filed a claim for fraud against. They had over 2,000 units in their control in South Shore. Now, those buildings are going through bankruptcy sale in South Shore, and most of the community at large found out much later than those that traditionally benefit from these types of fiascos. And you see the same type of names, right? Pangea, WPD, and others who are acquiring bulk assets in Black neighborhoods with no stipulations of they have to sell to Black developers, a certain amount of the property, Black tradesmen and women have to be a part of those deals, to make those money, or Black real estate brokers have to get the commissions from those transactions. So, there's just so much wealth that's being stripped away from the community and those that live in the community. And we have to start just demanding more. We have to start educating, our Black elected officials on how to help us fight this fight. Because I know from working with several of them that they are, very interested in fighting this fight and seeing the community at large benefit economically, spiritually and academically. So, this fight for inclusion, Ed, is a big deal. We have to fight for, access to capital. So, I just want to give big shout outs, again to Managing Deputy Commissioner Anthony Simpkins. I want to give a big shout out to Chicago Community Loan Fund, Calvin Holmes as the president and Wendell Harris as vice president, that working with us, we've been able to create a loan loss reserve for community receiver graduates to actually get access to up to, $200,000 in a line of credit to do purchase rehab. And it's not the end of the world, but we know that this is a huge step in the right direction. We also were able to get the new building commissioner, Ed, to agree to have a point of contact for graduates so that they no longer fall into this pit hole, if you will, of red tape around architectural drawings and pulling permits and things of that nature, which can make a job that was really attractive become a project that's a failed project, right? Because folks have to keep paying for the financing, but they're really behind the eight ball in terms of getting the administrative support to get moving to do the work that's necessary. So we just have to keep our foot mashed on the gas. And when we see wrong, call out wrong. And more importantly, wrong to one of us is wrong to all of us.
So, listeners out there, call in. I'm sure Courtney would love to talk to you. You can call in 773-223-8953. Call in at 708-223-8953. You can call in to if you have a question, or maybe you just want to you have a statement for Courtney. Courtney, I want to move on to Hold on just a moment. So you were talking about the receivership, and that was in reference to Dearborn Real Estate Board. Let's talk about how can an outsider get involved? What do I need to do as a layperson to become a receiver? What are some steps that I can take?
Yes. Well, what we've been encouraging folks from the community to do, we host an annual training class. This year it'll be virtual ed. We've had to kind of change the whole platform from an in-person platform to virtual. So it's been a little bit of a to-do, especially dealing with how to be safe in this COVID-19 environment. But we should have it up on the receivership website in the next 2 weeks. And, what we're encouraging folks to do is join the Dearborn Realtist Board. We as an army will have so much more power behind our efforts to fight for everybody if more people saw value in being a part. So you can go to the Dearborn Realtist Board.org, Chicago Realtist, REALTIST.com to join. The membership for real estate brokers is a nominal fee of $160 for the year. And I think that's relative to the fight of what we're fighting for. That $160 is pretty nominal over the grand scheme of the year. And for our non-real estate brokers, it's $135. And I stress this to the Black community. You do not have to be a real estate broker to be a member of the Dearborn Realtist Board.
Say that one more time, Courtney. One more time, please.
You do not have to be a real estate broker to have the Dearborn Realtist Board membership.
Okay. So, Courtney, I know you have a lot of brokers. I would say real estate brokers who are not part of Dearborn because they say, I'm already a part of one trade organization. What would you say to those brokers?
Really, Ed, all I would ever appeal to folks is simply this. We often have different memberships for different purposes. And the success of the African American Real Estate Trade Association would ultimately be the success of all people in real estate. And I just want to stress this. Anything that helps the Black real estate industry on average is going to help the entire real estate industry on average. So, I tell people just because you Black shouldn't be a reason you join, but it was enough for me. But I would tell people, the organization is just as strong as the skill set that people bring to the organization. So if you're a real estate participant, you would definitely want to lock arms with people who see value in you having a business, you having a career, and you have fair and equitable public policy.
So we have a caller. Courtney. Caller, do you have a question or a statement? What's your name and where you're from? Also, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, it's Yvette. I'm calling from California.
Hi, Yvette.
Hi, Courtney. I just wanted to make a statement. I think you're absolutely right about not doing enough and bringing enough lawsuits. Because when I think about California and the English language support they've given to second language learners, it's come because of a lot of lawsuits that have come through to the Supreme Court and the state courts of California. So it's not just because they want to give second language learners support, it's because they sued because their students have not been given the support that they need. So I think you're absolutely right in that respect. And also strategically, that's what I think. And it has to be strategic.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. That's what we're trying to promote, more judicial awareness, if you will. Because when you poll friends and family, ask people how many folks on the ballot are they familiar with when it comes to the judges that are on the ballot, right? A lot of our folks aren't knowledgeable, and it's not a negative to them. I want to make sure this is clear as you're listening. I'm not beating up my family members. I know in many instances our folks are really swamped with just trying to survive, just dealing with a systemic racial system that we live in, right? So it's definitely a tough issue to deal with. But we, to me, have to be just as interested in our city, our state, and our county government and leadership as we are with who's the commander in chief. Because these are the rules, the policies, and the regulations that govern our everyday lives.
Great, great. Again, thank you for calling in. The number to call in to talk to Courtney. You have a question or a statement. The number is 708-223-8953. And while we're doing that, Courtney, this is the favorite part of my show. Um, I'm sure my father is listening. It's called Know Your Guest. So, Courtney, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm gonna give you two choices. All right. You can only choose one. I know you guys from New York like to take everything, but you only get to choose one. You only have one choice. Okay. Okay. You ready?
Ready?
Smokey Robinson or Barry White?
Barry White.
Michelle Obama or Oprah?
Michelle Obama.
Common or Notorious Big? B.I.G.
Notorious B.I.G.
Now you're gonna love this one, Courtney. We always going back and forth, always going back and forth. But you see, here we go. You ready?
Ready?
Can you see it up on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Chicago Bears or the New York Giants?
I would refer to them as the G-Men, and it's the New York Football Giants. Is how they're titled.
So Courtney, so I do have one question. How long have you lived in Chicago?
I've had the pleasure, Ed, of earning a wage in the city of Chicago since 2003.
2003. That's 17 years.
Awesome
17
math,
years.
awesome math.
Thank you very much, sir. So you, I'm not gonna go where we usually go. I'm gonna leave that alone today. Courtney, I mean you can say what I usually say. You can go ahead and tell the audience what I usually say.
I'm gonna end on the shadow.
So Courtney, I just want to say thank you. Like I said, I um um I'm actually a board member of the Dearborn Realtist Board, and I actually joined because of you. So I don't know if I told you this. I think I told you once or twice, but I've actually stayed because of everyone else. It's a family. I've learned so much about leadership. Um, Past President Brother Ron Branch is actually on the line. He's actually watching too. I just want to say thank you to everyone. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's good work, you know, and someone has to do it, right? Because what did your pastor say again?
He would always say to us, if you don't care enough to do enough, then you shouldn't care enough to talk about people who do enough.
You know what, Courtney? I think I'm going to end the show with that. I think I'm going to end the show with that.
Thank you for having me. And I would just, try to motivate the listeners that there are better times ahead. We could see just how society is still trying to make money off of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. But I would still say this is a strategic time in history where we should be focused on trying to gain as much ground as possible, buy as much property as possible, grab as much access to capital as possible. While these interest rates are low, I would love to see more of our communities get as much of that money as you possibly could so that you can start building your own portfolio, start planning what your retirement strategy is going to look like. And more importantly, get engaged with the Dearborn Realtist Board. We're just a bunch of folks like yourselves that are just trying to figure it out, see our families be better off, and more importantly, we've learned that if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm gonna just say this is Ed Beavers with Ed Talk, and we are on IntellectualRadio.com. You can listen and watch our show every Sunday evening at 5 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you and good night.